Hi, this is Mrs. Fernandez, and today I want to talk to you about value. Value is the lightness or darkness of a color. And here you see a value scale. So when we look at objects and we're trying to draw them and make them look three-dimensional, what we need to use is value. So if we look at this drawing, you can see that it has very light values and very dark values for shadows, and all these other values that are in between, so these medium values. Light helps us see the things that are around us. If there's no light, we won't be able to see anything. And light is what makes things look three-dimensional. And we have to focus on where the light hits the objects so we know where the lightest values are going to be and where the darker values are going to be. Let's take a look at another drawing that I printed. And where the lightest areas are, if you've got something shiny, it will have a reflection, and these will be the lightest values, the whites. And where there's an absence of light underneath the objects, these will be your darkest shadows. These will be your darkest values. So what you're going to be doing is practicing drawing values, using values in a value scale. So you can see this value scale here, all the darks and lights. If you can print this out, you can certainly go ahead and fill in the step 1 of the value scale. If you do not have the ability to print this out, you can definitely make your own. Okay, you can get a ruler. And if you don't have a ruler, you just need some kind of straight edge, like a piece of cardboard, like your notebook. And you can use the ruler and make your own value scale. So I'm not even using a whole sheet of paper. I'm using part of a piece of paper. And I just want to divide this up into 10 different spaces. And the whole point here is to create enough spaces so that you can show white and all the values in between that and black. So I'm going to divide this up into about 10 spaces. So if you wanted to, you could evenly draw this out and measure 1-inch squares. You don't have to do that. If you don't have a ruler, you can just kind of eyeball it. That would be fine too, as long as you made enough sections to show your values. Now, if you really wanted to keep your line straight, you could measure it and put marks at the top and the bottom, and that would leave you with some nice straight lines. Okay, so what I'm going to do is leave the first box white, and then I'm going to start shading. Now, you could actually shade from the opposite side and make the darkest value and go lighter. Sometimes people think that that's much easier. So if you just take your pencil and shade in the darkest value that you can do with that pencil. So if you have an assortment of pencils like the HB, 2B, 4B, 6B, you can use those, but if you don't, you can still do this. And it's all about the pressure of your pencil. So here you want to press very hard. I would work on a hard surface. Don't work on a magazine or on the rug or even your notebook. Work directly on a table so that you get that nice dark value. Okay, and the more layers you put on it, the darker it's going to go. I'm going to fill this one in evenly, and I'm going to do it evenly because if I leave some lighter spaces, it's going to lighten the value. It's like when we've been working with line, and where we leave more white space, the lighter the value is. Okay, so I want to even this out. You can go back with some small circles and kind of even it out. Sometimes you leave some lines and those look a little darker, so we can use some small circles to even this out. Okay, now I'm not shading across the whole thing. I'm doing each one individually. Okay, then I'm going to start working on the next one, and I'm going to start a little bit lighter. And what I can do is build up to the next value. I'm not putting a line between these. I'm not drawing a dark line. And I'm not drawing a dark line because when you're doing your drawings, realistic drawings, nothing has an outline around it. Real objects do not have lines around them. What makes them different is the value change. So you can see this one is starting to look separate from that just because they're different values. And it's really not very dark. So I can go back and I can actually shade this in a little bit more, give it another layer until it gets to be the right value. And you keep working on it. So now you can see my almost complete version of a value scale. When I'm looking at this, some of these start to look very similar. So these two values start to look very similar. So what can I do in that case? I can actually lighten with my eraser very gently to try to lighten this value. I can go back into the one next to it and just very lightly add another layer of value, but I have to make sure that I'm not making it so close that it looks the same as the one on the other side. So you have to take the time to adjust where needed for value. If you have any 6B pencils or any different pencils, okay, so they come in a range. So here's 2B, what we regularly use, 4B, okay, 6B, and there's sometimes 7 and 8. We have 7 and 8 as well. And when we look at pencils and what they do, I'll draw a little scale for you. So on the scale, HB would be in the middle. 2B is what we use every day. And as the B's go up, they get darker and softer. Okay, and on the other side would be the H's, and these get harder and lighter as the number gets higher. So in this case, if I have a 6B, I could go back with my 6B or any of my other dark pencils, and I can go back and start adjusting some of the values by adding another layer with this very soft, darker pencil. If you don't have these pencils, that's fine. You can definitely use your regular pencil and your value scale will come out just great.